Yajai the suspect, do you think is a good thing? Officer investigators no omunya enough evidence and as evidence no oban penny and as a smelly political people within the political force people say omu face ana another Medina District Court Ahmed Suale no can tagger IPI Anas Arimia Anas the investigative journalist no the team in hono no way back papa no na ye fi say case no nya de bia besi na no ye dis ban ye te say arrest bia koso abrantia na ye friend Daniel Owusu Koranteng Owusu Koranteng no can tagger IPI hono yate no say oye suspect so onekun abrantia friend Ahmed Suale na yanti bi enka bi shemu ye wie na so abrantia no bail amount 50,000 Ghana cedis ontwia ye guzuguzu ani so yate no dam afa ye nkoti a ye jai abrantia no ye akwese no say onko na say enti Ahmed Suale enye justice awo Ghana ha eba ne say die si ye na ye so clear say eni obi na chuku obi na hye na ye fi say by now cranka ya invite Kennedy Agyapong because on the man abrantin face ebeda abontima Ghana for ina hu say we and a friend Ahmed Suale we your friend Anas Arimia Anas and if you there's subsequent interviews or yeah say okotwe sika de ma abrantin bia no ne Anas Arimia Anas tiger pia ni adwuma and through that every man say oh and ye akwanda nim Ghana for my so omundo musi mayi omo ma expose omo and osa threaten omo eso nya omo a obe ku omo firi ho but atire obekyerem na say ope president edi obekyerem say de okan say so omo ba ono ne premises wa ele say omo ma do so investigate na me nim boni an office wa ye enti na omo ba na premise and na ko tajai abrantia friend dan Owusu Koranteng say onko na wey na de achinyesu de beberebe abagana say adentia.
Daniel Owusu Koranteng was arraigned before the Medina District Court on March 19 following his arrest. Prosecution alleged that he led two other alleged culprits currently at large to the home of Ahmed Suale, where he was eventually shot and killed by unknown assailants. In court on Tuesday, October 14, prosecution led by Nanefua Bamfo informed the court that they had been directed by the Attorney General to discontinue the case. Following the prosecution's withdrawal, presiding judge Susan Nyakote then ordered that Daniel Owusu Koranteng be discharged and disposed of the case. Counsel for Owusu, led by Emma Jean Markin, expressed satisfaction at the development but chastised the prosecution.
I think that we were abandoning things that happened 2019, which is something that we cannot do in this matter. In 2019, when this issue happened, a lot of things happened. Several arrests have been made. Have we ever heard of anybody being paraded around the way Daniel Owusu Koranteng was paraded around? Has it ever been heard? But there have been several arrests. If there was more work done, like the way some media houses were saying FBI investigations, it would certainly not be pointing at my clients because you would have known that the gentleman was all the time in the country.
She further disclosed that Daniel's mental health had been impacted by the case.
After the arrest, after his bail, he's even having to seek medical attention. He's had a lot of emotional trauma. It's not been easy, even for us as lawyers.
The Attorney General discontinued the case due to one lack of sufficient evidence to continue the prosecution of Daniel. He indicated that the sketch which was available to the police did not match with the description of the lead suspect, Daniel Owusu Koranteng. Another thing that came up was that although his phone was pinged at the location where Ahmed Suale was killed, that is in itself is not enough for him to be prosecuted or held for his murder.
It remains to be seen what direction the murder trial of investigative journalist Ahmed Suale will take, as his assailants appear to be gone with the wind.
According to Amakye Church, it takes courage to say, looking at the evidence, we cannot convict. Now wey nsema edema Dr. Baumia Kwesi Botwe Junior or say investigators ya omo investigate Ahmed Suale no say a friend say Daniel Owusu Koranteng on Ahmed Suale wood yen punish omu ni na yen sanse omu ni na also no so omu ni momadwuma or say we ye investigation conclude say abrantie we na ye hwe wodi awi ni akwati ne pon na wie chi ne pon wie ya bobo afei ye pe abrantie no say ni evidence ne wa ya yehu na dey say also investigators mu ni madwuma nti yen sanse no mo on this particular case.
For a case to travel for 6 years and for suddenly for us to be told that the investigations were not properly done, because these are fundamental issues that every prosecutor should assess before proceeding to court. Because if you look at the criminal threshold, it's a higher burden of proving the guilt of the accused person beyond reasonable doubt. And so if you're a prosecutor and even the sketch does not look like the person you are prosecuting, that should be the first red flag for you. That this sketch I have and the person I'm seeing, you know, the pictures does not match the person. And so you shouldn't have even initiated charges against the person in the first place. You see, all these, you know, checklists should have been met. But we travel the case down the line, spend money. I think it's a waste of judicial resources because prosecutors would have to go to court, file documents, disclosures, go through the process for 6 years. And today we are told the investigators didn't do their job properly. I think that for the first time, the investigators, you know, have to be, you know, sanctioned. It has to be a sanction for the investigator. It cannot be business as usual to serve as a deterrent to other investigators who also cook up evidence, quote and unquote, to the prosecutors. Because the prosecutor doesn't engage in investigation. All the prosecutor does is to assess the evidence that has been adduced by the investigators and then know the necessary charges to profess against the accused persons. Because again, to stand on engineer's point, engineer made a point that, you know, because the state is perceived to have the resources to undertake criminal prosecutions, usually the law is in such a way that it protects the accused person more. Because if you look at the rights that the accused person, you know, he has a lot of, accused persons have a lot of rights under our criminal jurisprudence. And so to secure the conviction, it is very easy to initiate prosecutions against people, but it is very difficult to meet the burden of proof and to secure conviction against the accused persons. And so I think that sometimes we should tread, you know, cautiously. It shouldn't be the case that anytime the public asks for prosecutions, then the state must rush to, you know, initiate prosecutions.
And later there
should be thorough investigations. It shouldn't be a half-baked, you know, job. So I think that the AG must come clear to, you know, give the good people of this country some assurance, to let the good people of this country know that it's not going to be business as usual and that some sanctions are going to be taken against the investigators for misleading.
But according to aside the politics, MPP time, and Ahmed Suale Yekuno around 2019, and I say from what time na besine. Yanti obi ya yantehe na nu yati obi so yesaja no MPP ni a no kasema Dr. Mahmoud anya vim kyese empane so obi a no wati match wo mu de ekura de wanti manch na se na ombese e beti obi a according to NDC ni so a friend Victor Kwajuga Adawudu ese o say investigators no often face pressure from top of God at the top. Politically say, oh, there be a way a sensitive case. Na they say Kennedy Mudi Mumbo who be na say MPP now. I didn't obey any tia MPP. That's all about the MPP ni nipa kese na kuna na. And you know, I know muntimin kan wase mana. I don't get it. But according to Victor Kwajuga Adawudu say, Attorney General na yade for taking care of sa approach say obe review sa Ahmed Suale the murder case no name no den because of how political sensitive that case with here. For no there obo Attorney General na ba so me say ade na ya demand nipa no de oku no obo say ya ja we no ma no nkofie na muni enough evidence ampa me ne kofi ayi akosi botwe ya adwene muni enough evidence ade na mkoche no but na wi na atonje na demand prosecute obi a awa asem no a Ahmed Suale case da so da wa yenya obi a ade nti na moja no.
We have to also look at maybe gathering of the evidence, the processes by which it was done. So now you want to go back, I'll come to the sketch. You want to go back and see what was the pieces of evidence that was glossed over. So that becomes part of issues that the next time you are training your investigators and others, you would have to make sure you do. I commend the Attorney General in the sense that sometimes when issue comes and it is an issue that will polarize or we have political undertones, when we find political elements within the matter and we polarize the matter, there is some pressure on the investigators to be able to trump charges. When they know very well, maybe they have told their superiors that this is what we are finding. But their superiors are like, there's pressure on us. So far as there's pressure on us, let's push it through. Let's push it through. So most of the cases, I can tell you, the investigators, they know, especially the subordinates, they know the truth. But when they tell their superiors, for them to look good within the books of the authorities, they go and present a different version. It takes courage in this matter to come and say that, looking at the evidence, I don't think we can convict. What we can do is, let's discharge, go back and do some investigation and look at what has been glossed over. Once the man has been discharged, we are not being told that he's been acquitted, because they haven't gone into the matter. It means that if they find evidence in this matter which links him, he can be brought back to.
There are two suspects on the run.
Yes.
And he was accused of abetting them.
Abetting them.
Right.
So if they get the facts which the nexus connects him, they can always bring him back. And for me, some of the investigations, it's armchair investigations that is done. They put pressure on the person, just say this. And you know, sometimes they tell the suspect and the accused will just admit that I have done this, I will speak to the judge, or the system will speak to the judge and the judge. And most of the suspects, when they go and they admit, you know, they think that it will because a promise, and they go and they say, oh yes, we are guilty, or they go through the process expecting that maybe some deal has been cut between them and he'll be given some minimal. It never happens.
Now, lawyer Beatrice Annan, I was a presidential staffer. Edema, the NDC, or say hey. Or say Dr. Zato, Kawanu tum. Na more or say MPP for more power. Na in Central for more chebe. Na a friend say protesters more chebe na mo bube. Ma ye weni na wie. Ama wo be bio anu akasa o kasa tia say NDC emfa press freedom ho. NDC for against press freedom because Ahmed Suale a case no ya kwete than Owusu and I say how dare you. MPP for some 8 years no unim Central for boy abo mo. Chi omo Captain Smart mo chi omo. Osimo ma ye we na wie Caleb our city. Mo am gwa no. Exactly ko we BNI. Ma ye we na wie wo be kasa tia osika wanutum. Sa case we NDC enye NDC as any MPP asem. Nemom no ese find justice. Edema de okun Ahmed Suale nemom no. O Dr. Zato any MPP for mon kama nutum. Am say Ghana everything na politics.
I have to first respond to some of the things that Dr. Zato has mentioned. So to Dr. Zato, let me say that maybe you may not see it, but the greatest evidence of the freedom of speech and the fresh air, and even the freedom after speech that we are enjoying in Ghana is you, Dr. Zato.
Oh.
Because Dr. Zato can shout, say a lot of things, and after the show, nobody comes after him. The story of Manasseh and Bibi, they were not even shouting, but they did not have the right environment. So it cannot be hypocrisy on steroids. And Dr. Dazo is a PhD holder. He cannot tell me that when people conduct research, like the Musa Dankwa polls that he referred to, and the opinion is that it may be too early for you to conduct research, that amounts to attacking academic freedom. My goodness, that cannot be the case. And again, the issue of somebody changing headlines. Roland, I expected you to put him to some proof and explain to him that sometimes even editors will get editorial policies wrong. I worked with the Enquirer newspaper when I was in the university. And when you do a story and it is brought to your attention that you did not get these right, sometimes the media houses are so humble, they either put the story down.
Well, this week there was an apology that was given to the sports minister.
They either pull the story down, or they issue an apology, or they do a retraction. That cannot be somebody oppressing. Dr. Zato, maybe you were not around under the MPP government. I don't know whether Dr. Zato was on your show, but some of the richest people in this country, like Sam Jonah, who is not a Cadbury member, said that there was a culture of silence. But why are we even going far? Professor Frimpong Boateng. Professor Frimpong Boateng.
What did he do?
When he authored a report on MPP members who were engaged in Galamsey, look at what happened to Professor Frimpong Boateng. In your own party. In your own party. Professor Frimpong Boateng is not an NDC Cadbury member. Then he says, oh, please, let's get serious with discussions. If you want to equalize when the NDC government has done something wrong, Dr. Zato, come stronger. Come with very solid, and I have consistently maintained that the present Mahama presidency you are experiencing, for which reason we are committed to major macroeconomic stabilities that your Baumia could not give the people of Ghana. We also welcome very dissenting opinions. And so when you are trying to counter a murder case, at a time when we are discussing a life lost, you are comparing it to Musa Dankwa's research that people said is too early, and this is the rebuttal. At a time when we are talking and people are in pains about some of the things that happened to them. My friend Caleb Kuda, what was his crime? Because he wanted to film something as a journalist, ended up with the NIB. And when you have to equalize, you are saying that change of headlines. I mean, we should not do this to ourselves. Sometimes I don't know whether you bring him here as a member of the MPP or as an objective person. Because when I'm dealing with him, I don't know whether to deal with him as an objective person or a member of the MPP. But if he's a member of the MPP, no, I think I've seen his pictures where he's a member of the MPP. But if he's a member of the MPP, he must know that his party did a lot of disservice to this nation. He must know that the MPP led Ghana into abyss. We should not even be reminding people of our pains. You came from an election with an electoral defeat of over 1.7 million. At this time, you ought to be doing introspection. You ought to be reflecting on what were the wrongs. At this time, we expect you, on one breath, they are apologizing, on an apology talk. On another breath, they are saying that, you know what, we did everything right, which is which. I can understand that they are going through some emotional, turbulent moments because they want to elect a new flag bearer. But let's not equalize what happened in the past.
The time is running.
No journalist has died. You cannot compare death to dissenting opinion. Yes, under NPP, people were speaking. It didn't mean that everybody was quiet. We were saying that certain things that the government did not feel comfortable with. There was a way they reacted to it. Press freedom, as at 2022, reduced, and Ghana moved from 1st to 10th position. I have the index here. So when we say and when we make some suggestion, we do that in the hope that even we as NDC government, we will the Agyapong for the Baumia campaign, that today Abonye is an idol in society whose freedom has been curtailed. What did Abonye do? And did you check who the complainant is in the Abonye case? Did Dr. Zato check? Government had nothing to do with that. In fact, many government communicators, including myself, we were on record to have criticized the decision of the court. You could not do that. Under your government, everything the court did was sacred. Did you see governments trying to condone that? I mean, those acts which we felt were not in tandem. So Dr. Zato should come back stronger.
Okay.
Now,
TUC.
So
but engineer and analyst Michael Kosi they say to no important pa say ye thorough investigation and prosper and proper prosecution. I say judge for mo Ghana. The ometimaya say o ometimaya say wa prosecute you bi no. Case now the buy no evidence abu endorse we kama. Evidence no ekasa say ebetimi incriminate nipa no eno de judge be ye dey obebu ama but say all the evidence ne basa evidence dey nkoye half truth half I guess half it might be some nema ne dey all the ba emfa enkoye enti to oro no say prosecution no say ebeye yi a omo proper investigation now abrante case the omo proper investigation watching it.
The investigation process itself needs to be thorough.
Right.
So if it's not done, because our judges deal with evidence. If the evidence is not right, they will throw it out. And again, when it comes to issues of crime, because it is the state versus the person, the state is deemed to have a lot of resources at its disposal. And therefore, the defendant in those cases doesn't need to do much. It is the state that has to prove its case beyond all reasonable doubt. So if the state prosecution is weak in terms of the investigation and all the processes that are done, clearly nothing is going to happen. The judge is not going to give a ruling in favor of the state. Now, where a crime has been committed, there's a certain evidence that will lead you to a certain level of prosecution. I think that it is important that we follow those. Let me give you a typical example. And it's a very painful one. In the case of the Yana.
Right.
Following that traumatic event, someone was found with the head of the Yana. When he went to court, what was he charged with? He was charged with murder. But there was no evidence to support murder. But he could have been charged with the possession of human parts.
Exactly.
So again, for me, I find that sometimes is it a deliberate action when we go to court and charge people with wrong things that we cannot find evidence for. And therefore the persons walk away free. So it is something that we need to look at seriously in terms of justice delivery in this country. The investigation process has to be thorough, and the judges or the prosecution has to be done properly. And that once it is the state versus an individual, the state is deemed to have unlimited resources, and therefore the judges will only rule in favor when there's the evidence is beyond reasonable doubt. So I think that all of us as citizens need to understand that concept, because when we don't understand that concept, we tend to think that the person, the judge is not being fair. But the judge must deal with that, the evidence that has been presented, and make a ruling. And if the judge doesn't find it, there's no way the judge will make that ruling.
Martin Kebu ese obetresem montumbo ase yekaso obi acquitted acquitted na de se eno ntrese de bi nipa no ho ato no de bi difference wom o say you acquitted and discharged and you acquitted onti for now you acquitted na say you ma kwan utimi ko because evidence na you brought it before the court no enye enough everything man kaso na odi za dwumadi nemom no say you discharge o kan wi a na de say you find assembly the conclusion who say even though some of the evidence na de ba na ka bia evidence de ba enye no kre enti ye jawo wodi bem eno na ye acquitted and discharged na mbom no say kaso we acquitted and it say asem na ye ka no ase ne kre wom kakra ba no kre no so say ye maga say enu nti wodi sa bone no nti sa de ye nkopɛ no kre ni na amra nye sa de a ko ba ye nya we ye set me visit case no nti o say government of Ghana ebetima sa visit case no back unless say omo terminate case no formally no mo ka say null protocol na say case no ye hu say evidence papa bia wo mti no ya twa so enya de ye to case na so biu but enu nsi ye nko ade a abrante da ne Owusu acquitted but onye discharged nti according to lawyer Martin Pebu vim na so homa case no nti ye na ya bom abu say Ahmed Suale ne medra so ne medra suspect na ye che no aye da ne Owusu afri no ye jana no hope that so ho vim e da so ho say e possible say e be say timachi ne bio ana be timachi afofofo mo ka no ho ana say betimi agase ne case ne ye twam kra enko bio ba eno na Ghana for so mo mpe no Ghana for so ombe so mu say Ahmed Suale ya che ne killer e bi so great buza question say na JB dan kwa ne killer on so owo he am say na munim say e tie ne ka say the late John Kuma ne de na ye poison if it is poison investigation na Ghana your helicopter crash impo ebesi ne I take dignities away from us I cause the entire nation to cry besi ne yenya investigation no ne report I beka say a friend is a helicopter no fault it was a weather fault and I say it was orchestrated by someone else yenim besi ne enti Ghana here we as say investigation be up the ding every investigation be up the ding hey David dan ko wi menye ne boy na chi ni yeseja no ene Ahmed Suale su wi enye ne nipa ya chi no su yeseja no acquitted this year Ghana ne de brofo we ya acquitted ente ne de discharge na kan anya so na discharge na maya nya ko fa no protocol there's a case no kwa yenye ni achire biu say ya na didi etirim sa ti Ghana for said no this particular Ahmed Suale death we must know the killer when a naked truth Oldboga trends for comment to comment section I say do you want to know Ahmed Suale killer yes or no me I want to know do you want to know na so person who are the next question me buza say yejai the suspect do you think is a good thing Ufis investigators no omunya enough evidence and as evidence no oban penye and as a smell political people within the political force we say omu face and there's a whole lot of questions are running through my mind and I know say also many questions are running through your mind subscribe it like it next share never comment at the comment section na say edi no e ba ko pe Maxi Billian Accra bye bye.